Welcome to Fantasy Fanfiction. American Comics, the Foundation's inventory at the beginning shocked the world. Chapter 41. Think of this. Tony held out a trembling hand, reaching towards the mirror. To his surprise, his hand went directly through the mirror. It's like there's another world inside. Tony was shocked. Subtitles continue to be updated. After testing, you can enter the mirror world when holding abnormal containment object 093. Close black lens bracket. The color of 093 is different, and the world that the tester enters will be different. Close black lens bracket. This is interesting. The mirror world, that is to say, 093 is a key, right? Will this containment be safe? Just like 999. It depends on whether the world in the mirror is dangerous or not. I have a bad feeling. It doesn't matter what the world in the mirror looks like, it won't affect our world anyway. Shield. Nick frowned. The mirror world can be entered through a disc. We need to contain this disc quickly. If someone goes in and comes back with something unclean. Yes, we need to contain it quickly. I think Shield can also help a lot. Lu Yi rarely agreed with Nick's words. Seeing Lu Yi's reaction, Natasha Romanoff realized it immediately. This 093 must not be simple. Kamar Taj. The key to traveling to other worlds. She summed up brilliantly. Suddenly, she had a bad feeling. Unlike most people, Ancient One does not yearn for another world or another universe. Because, it's usually dangerous out there. Like, dark space and Dormammu. Or, that universe full of Walking Dead. Or, that cancerous universe. Hopefully, no one will ever enter that kind of place. On top of a tall building, Loki looked at the text in the light screen. Thor, in that mirror world, there may be the mount you are looking for. It makes sense. Thor stood up and waved the hammer. Loki, let's go and take a look when the scene is played. His injuries were almost healed with the help of Asgard's divine oil. Loki was silent. Obviously, Hulk left a deep shadow on him. Even if it is 999, it is difficult to cure. Above the light curtain, the screen began to play. Tony Stark suddenly appears. I saw that he was wearing a battle armor with the help of Jarvis. I'm not going in there bare-handed, Tony said to himself. Suddenly, people were shocked. No way. It's Tony Stark again. Why did this unlucky guy encounter an abnormal containment object again? Ha 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 ha, there won't be anyone with such a weak back, right? Most people may not encounter it in their lifetime, but he encountered it twice in less than a week. What does he want to do? Does he want to wear this thing and enter the mirror world? Is he crazy? If he doesn't run away quickly, he still wants to go in. I really don't understand the world of rich people. Shield. Tony Stark, you lunatic. Nick was shocked. Everyone assembles and goes to Stark Tower immediately. Nick glanced at Banner. You come too. Banner nodded. Ah, okay, I just want to see it. Lu Yi naturally did not follow. He wanted to stay here, just in case. After all, this Red Sea object. It can be regarded as one of the most in-depth among the top 100 contained objects. In the light curtain, Tony Stark is wearing Mark I armor. He had already stretched half of his body into the mirror world. I saw the scene inside. He was stunned. All I saw was a city glowing with purple light. Stark wore Mark armor and walked on the street. This is a bustling neighborhood similar to New York. Everything here looks very advanced, including several cars parked on the street. The weird thing is, there is no breath of life here at all. Sir, after testing, the air here is breathable. Tony immediately opened his mask. But then, a smelly smell floated over. It smells like feces mixed with corpse oil and cooked for a week. Tony was so disgusted that he almost vomited. Immediately closed the mask. Jarvis, you call this being able to breathe? Sorry, sir, I don't have the ability to distinguish smells. Looks like we need to upgrade. Tony muttered, walking towards a car on the side of the road. This car looks like it's from the future. However, it was covered with dust. It had obviously been abandoned for a long time. Tony wiped the dust off the car window and looked inside. I saw that the car was full of strange brown objects. Tony tried to open the car door. But I used too much force and it came off. Oh, sorry. This is the mirror world. These buildings look very high-tech. That's true, but I always feel indescribably weird. I think so too. It's a bit eerily quiet here. Did something happen here? Did the residents move away, or... Gag. The internal structure of a car is similar to a car on Earth, but not the same. Tony tinkered for a while and saw that it couldn't be started. Just moved on. When passing a residential building, Tony stretched his head and looked into the window. It was also full of strange brown solids. At this moment, a figure of huge amounts suddenly passed by the window on the other side. Tony didn't seem to see it at all. However, people under the light curtain can see clearly. What is that? It was so scary that my heart stopped for a moment. Did I read that correctly? There is indeed something, gray and gray. It's so fast. This city is really not that simple. Those people must have been killed by it. Looking at the light curtain, Lui sighed helplessly. Those things destroyed more than just this city. Tony kept walking. Soon, a huge amount of building was seen. Very tall and luxurious. Just like the Dubai Twin Towers and the London Eye, they are landmarks of the entire city. Tony walked over immediately. Presumably, there are some interesting things to be found in there. Tony walked up to the door of the building. The door was locked with a magnetic lock and could not be opened with bare hands. Tony took a few steps back and opened his palms. Boom! The door was directly blown to pieces. Tony entered a very luxurious hall. The scene here looks very messy. It was as if everyone left in a hurry. Do not you know why? There is a strange computer on the table. Tony walked over and tried to operate. It says devotional operating system and asks for a password. Tony lets JARVIS invade. But the moment JARVIS enters the computer immediately started its self-destruct program. Tony had no choice but to move on. Ahead are two large elevator doors. The door on the right has a crooked shape. The elevator inside is also gone. This seems to have been damaged by something. Tony walked to the other elevator door and it opened automatically. He went inside. At the moment, SHIELD people have arrived at Stark Tower. Also coming together were Colonel Rhodes and some soldiers. With the help of Lui, the men successfully entered the building. Soon, I found the mirror leading to Otherworld. Rhodes took a deep breath and entered first. The remaining people also walked in one after another. Nick Fury pulled out his pistol and prayed silently, "Tony, you guy, don't let anything happen to you." The elevator Tony took a long time and finally stopped at the 114th floor. The elevator door opened and Tony walked out. He came to a vast place similar to a lounge. All the tables and chairs here are covered with dust. Huge amounts of windows have been shattered. Purple sunlight shines in. Tony walked over to the window. Start overlooking the scenery below. The building where Tony is located is very high, overlooking faraway places. The city below looked gray and dilapidated. In some places, the brown material stood like towering trees, covering the buildings. Looking at the mountains, there is a strange beauty. It seems that it is indeed a dead city. Tony said to himself, what is the reason that causes this? Tony continued to look into the distance. When he saw the ring road, his eyes suddenly froze. I saw a very huge amount of humanoid creature crawling on it. Tony took a few steps back. This kind of horror of suddenly seeing a living creature or a monster is simply deep in the bones. Tony's scalp was numb and his heart was pounding. Take a deep breath. He used the telescope function to observe the creature carefully. It was huge, covered in rotting gray skin. There are no facial features on its face. He also has no lower body. Broken internal organs, such as intestines, trailed behind it, leaving behind a brown liquid. Its two arms, or legs. There is no fixed length. As it moves forward, it keeps changing. Tony forced himself to calm down. Now, it's time to return. It seems that there is only one monster in the whole city. And it moves very slowly. If you encounter it on the way, with the mobility of the Mark generation, it should not be caught up. Thinking of this, Tony immediately returned to the elevator. On the way down the elevator, Tony suddenly saw it. The button on floor 74 was activated. This made him feel strange. It was definitely not something he pressed. But whatever. Out of curiosity, Tony decided to go to that floor to take a look. Anyway, you can go back anytime you want. Soon, the elevator reached the 74th floor. The elevator door opens. What comes into view is an office. Judging from the facilities and decoration, it looks like it belongs to a doctor. Tony continued walking inside. He found a form on the reception desk. Tony picked it up and looked at it. He found that the date above ended in 1953. 1953, Tony thought. Does this mean that the city fell that year? The computer on the desk seemed to be powered on. Tony looked at it. Still a pious operating system. The folders inside are all about dating. In addition, there is a notepad on the table. Tony opened it. From the table of Dr. Barizak's, the Blessed Purifier. Close black lens bracket. This office belongs to Dr. Barizak's. What does purifier mean? Tony put the notebook in the storage space and continued walking forward. Ahead is a door. It has Barizak's name written on it. On the door, there is a big cross sign. Tony stepped forward. JARVIS quickly hacked into Gates systems. After hearing a ding, Tony pressed the cross. Then, the door opened. A long and narrow white corridor appeared. Tony took a deep breath. What's inside is probably the truth about this world. At this point, there is no reason to back down. Tony walked in. Fortunately, the corridor is spacious enough to allow Mark's generation to move freely. At the end of the corridor, there is a coded door. Tony once again lets JARVIS crack the code. The door opened and Tony walked in. The scene inside shocked Tony. It's very huge here. In the center, several huge amounts of capsule-shaped transparent containers stand. There were 6 in total and 2 had cracked. Brown liquid flowed from the broken container onto the floor. It's like something broke through the container. In the remaining 4 containers, 2 of them had nothing in them. In the other 2, there is a naked human being soaked in each. There is a man and a woman. The woman is very young and the man is middle-aged. They were wearing respirators. Tested by JARVIS. They had no vital signs. The case is taped to the bottom of the container. Tony looked closer. It says, Citizen Jaycee's soul was tainted, which caused her to sleep with her neighbors 5 times while her husband was away from home. The patient is obedient to our management. She is willing to be saved through the hands of God and us. Close black lens bracket. Jaycee is managed by high-level priest UWA. Close black lens bracket. The patient accepted the purification of God's tears every 3 days to redeem her tainted soul. Close black lens bracket. Tears of God, purification. Tears of God, do you mean the liquid in the jar? Tony looked at the other man's case. Citizen AF attacked a high-level priest. He angrily stated that the tears of God had turned his daughter insane. Close black lens bracket. And blamed the priest and his blessing for the dirty and obscene deeds his daughter had done. Close black lens bracket. He was deeply abusive towards the priest and the tears of God. Close black lens bracket. AF was sentenced to soak in the tears of God for a week to cleanse his dirty soul. Close black lens bracket. Under the light curtain, people started a heated discussion. Those brown liquids seem to be exactly the same as those on that monster. I saw it too. Does this mean that it was the monster that ran out of the jar? 2 jars have been breached, which means there is more than one monster. There are 2 people here who were soaked in a jar intact. Does this mean that those monsters were transformed from humans? Oh no, I'm getting goosebumps. Can you actually turn a human being into such a terrifying thing? Kamar Taj. Ancient One carefully observed the case descriptions of the 2 people. What's in this jar should be the tears of God. And the tears of God turned them into monsters. Thinking of this, Ancient One frowned slightly. Everyone in the city has disappeared. Could it be that they have all turned into? And Tony Stark thought there was just one monster there. He didn't realize at all that he might be surrounded by tens of thousands of monsters. Atop Stark Tower. The portal opens. Loki and Thor came out. Loki saw that there was only one monster there, and it was moving so slowly. I suddenly gained confidence and rushed over immediately. Thor waved the hammer. That thing is not suitable for my mount. But it would be nice to have one more trophy. They soon entered the mirror world. Tony Stark was full of curiosity. What exactly are the tears of God? Tears of God. And what is God? An abstract concept or an entity? Why did the rulers create those monsters? How did they get out of control? Tony searched the room. He firmly believes that the truth will be found. Finally, At the prompts of JARVIS, Tony pressed against the smooth wall. There was a sizzling sound. A box slowly popped open. Inside was a stack of documents and a bottle of viscous light blue liquid. Tony picked up the file. I saw it was written above. Open black lens bracket Lord Black in the unholy land close black lens bracket. Tony's Adam's apple moved. Could it be that? The truth of all this is recorded in this. Tony opened it eagerly. The fonts inside reveal an ancient atmosphere. The content is very long, in short it is like this. Mr. Wallace obtained an unusual artifact, a small red disc. Close black lens bracket. If you don't touch it, it will start rolling at an extremely high speed and even crash through the wall. Close black lens bracket. Until it comes into contact with the mirror. What's even more amazing is that no matter how fast it is, a person can always catch it effortlessly. Close black lens bracket. Wallace's maid accidentally touched it while cleaning the room. Close black lens bracket. A man emerged from the mirror. The maid was frightened and called the police. Close black lens bracket. No one believes that the man is from another world, but I am different. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. I found that man. Close black lens bracket. Finally, I entered the mirror world. Close black lens bracket. It is a world with extremely strong religious overtones. The supreme leader is the Pope. Close black lens bracket. And everyone believes in one God, Him. Yes, that's Him. Not God, not Jesus, just Him. Any religion other than this is a heresy. Once discovered, it must be immersed in the tears of God and purified. Close black lens bracket. If they are allowed to promote heresy, the unclean ones will appear and destroy everyone. He brought medicine and technology to the world, but wars broke out among various countries to compete for his favor. Close black lens bracket. When he saw the tragic situation of his people killing each other, he cried sadly. The tears he left behind were the tears of God. Close black lens bracket. Those who taste his tears are cleansed from their sins. And those whose sins are too serious become unclean, a kind of terrible monster. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. I want to go to the dry land to see it myself. Close black lens bracket. There are unclean people everywhere. Close black lens bracket. I entered the dry land and smelled the rotten smell. Close black lens bracket. I encountered the unclean one, and my weapons were useless. Close black lens bracket. The army of gods saved me, but one of them was absorbed by the unclean one, who ran away. Close black lens bracket. I was taken to the clergy court for trial for trespassing in the drained land. Close black lens bracket. I used my intelligence to overcome the ignorance of those people and got a good position. I am also slowly getting closer to the truth. Close black lens bracket. Those unclean ones are not the incarnation of the devil at all, but severely deformed human beings originally. The tears of God are the catalyst. When people come into contact with the tears of God, they will mutate and become unclean. Close black lens bracket. The unclean ones will devour all life and assimilate it. It will get bigger and bigger, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Close black lens bracket. The church must know this truth. Close black lens bracket. But the unclean ones were the weapons they used to maintain their rule, and they used them to conquer one country after another. Close black lens bracket. In order to take advantage of the unclean, the church allows this dangerous thing to exist. Close black lens bracket. And how long will it be until they lose control and destroy the entire world, and even other worlds? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. I don't know, but I won't let it. Close black lens bracket. Corroded handwriting. I developed Blackwood's tears, which can. Corroded handwriting. By this point, the rest was completely destroyed. It turns out that these monsters are called unclean ones, and they are really transformed from humans. The unclean ones will become bigger the more creatures they absorb. The one I just saw may have absorbed hundreds of people. Blackwood's document says that those unclean ones can't even be killed by rocket launchers and machine guns. It's not surprising that such a terrifying thing can destroy a world. This Blackwood is so brave, he dares to face those unclean ones in person. I almost peed in fear when I saw it through the screen. So, what is that? Him. Tears can create monsters. He must be very powerful, right? Ah, Why was the back damaged? I really want to know what happened in the end. Kamar Taj. A human being who saves other worlds without hesitation, faces terrifying monsters, and is not afraid of death. Ancient One sighed. Ask yourself, even she would have a hard time doing that. Even in order to extend his life, he absorbs the energy of the dark space. Ancient One is ashamed of itself. In addition, Ancient One analyzed something very important from Blackwood's diary. I mean, there is probably more than one Red Sea object. Stark's blood boiled after reading the notebook. Blackwood's courage is truly admirable. Tony decided to do something. He must not let the unclean invade the earth. Let me inherit one of yours, Dr. Blackwood. Tony picked up the bottle of viscous liquid. This must be Blackwood's tears. Tony activated the armor's weapons. He wants to integrate Blackwood's tears and cannonballs. In this way, those who are unclean can be killed. At this time, Tony suddenly felt the building shaking. And it's getting stronger. It was like something was climbing up quickly. Within seconds, there was a bang. A huge monster with rotten gray-white skin break through the wall and rushed towards Tony. Tony immediately closed the mask. Cursed. A cannonball was fired. Boom. A big hole was blown out of the unclean one's head. However, it heals at a speed visible to the naked eye. Since Tony's cannonball didn't integrate Blackwood's tears, so it can't cause more damage. Tony knew he couldn't stop. He backed away quickly. At the same time, the palm cannon was fired. The unholy ones were constantly injured by me, but recovered quickly. And getting closer and closer to Tony. Tony just blew down the wall behind him. Purple sunlight shines in. Tony jumped immediately. However, the unclean ones also caught up. His arms stretched out rapidly. Just scratched Tony's chest. Click. Gee. Tony's energy system was damaged and instantly disabled. He couldn't fly and quickly fell to the ground. JARVIS, activate backup hidden energy. Yes, sir. 2 pipes behind Tony sprayed out flames. Greatly alleviates the impact of landing. Boom. Tony fell to the ground. He didn't stop. Instead, he ran while trying to integrate Blackwood's tears with his own weapons. Sir, your energy is constantly decreasing. When it reaches 0, shrapnel will enter your heart. Tony forced a smile and said firmly, I can do it, JARVIS. I will kill this son of a bitch before the energy runs out. Integrate progress, 50%. At the moment, on the tall building over there, the unclean one was rushing towards Tony at extremely fast speeds. Integrate progress, 60%. The unclean ones are getting bigger and bigger in Tony's eyes. Rod, Nick, Natasha Romanoff and the agents are heading towards the tallest building. Along the way, they were careful. Suddenly, they saw an unclean one from a distance. They immediately took cover. But I don't know why. The unclean one, who had no face or any facial features, looked towards where they were hiding. Apparently they were discovered. Suddenly, the heads of the unclean ones are pointed towards the sky, constantly making strange noises. Rhodes was startled. No. He is calling his kind. Suddenly, the earth shook. Countless unclean people came from all directions. It can scratch Tony's armor to bits. Natasha Romanoff and others were completely powerless to resist. Nick turned his head. Take a deep look at Banner. Dr. Banner, it's your turn. Dozens of unclean people came from all directions. Banner took a deep breath. He didn't expect that Hulk had calmed down not long ago. This time, I have to call him out again. However, he understood it from the moment Nick Fury asked him to follow. What Nick Fury actually wants is Hulk. Banner clenched his fists and exerted force all over his body. Please, Hulk, come out. The unclean ones are getting closer. Those huge faces without facial features are like huge mouths of an abyss. It is about to devour all living creatures. Banner was sweating profusely, but Hulk had no intention of coming out. At the moment, agents and soldiers had opened fire. The dense bullets shot into the flesh and blood of the unclean ones. Rotten skin and brown blood splattered everywhere. But their speed hasn't slowed down at all. The soldiers and agents on the outermost perimeter were instantly knocked down by the unclean ones. Then the unclean one pressed down with its huge amounts of face. Those people were absorbed directly. And the figure of the unclean one has grown bigger visibly to the naked eye. One of the unclean ones. already rushed in front of Hulk. He has raised his rotten hand. Natasha Romanoff shouted anxiously, "Get out of the way, Banner." But it's too late. The hand that could destroy hard alloy struck Banner's mortal body. Boom! A puff of smoke. Natasha Romanoff's lips quivered. Nick also stared there in horror. Banner. Suddenly, a familiar roar resounded throughout the sky. The smoke cleared. Hulk clutched the Unclean One's hand tightly and glared at it. Then, he roared and pulled with all his strength. The entire arm of the Unclean One was pulled off at once. A huge amount of brown liquid sprayed out from the severed arm. But, almost instantly, new arms grew right away. Hulk immediately punched the Unholy One in the face. There was a muffled sound, and its face sunk in. Suddenly, another Unclean One pounced. In one fell swoop, Hulk was knocked to the ground. Since Hulk doesn't have the Wrath Blessing now, therefore, the combat effectiveness is much worse than that of 999. The two Unclean Ones began to tear Hulk apart with their hands. One of them scratched Hulk in the face. Half of his face was torn off along with his flesh and blood. Half of Haiku's face suddenly had only bones left. It roared in pain. Another Unclean One grabbed Hulk's arm and pulled hard. Hulk's forearm was ripped off directly. The blood immediately dyed the battlefield green. Hulk roared in pain, but he seemed helpless in the face of the powerful Unclean One. At the moment, two Unholy Ones scrambled to absorb the Hulk. Absorbing an ordinary human would make the Unclean much larger. Not to mention, it's Hulk. The huge face of the Unclean One is already pressing towards Hulk. The other side. Tony looked at the remaining 25% of hidden energy. Then he looked at the Unclean Ones approaching quickly. He gritted his teeth and the pipe behind him spurted out flames. Send him into the sky. The Unclean One missed the mark and crashed into a building. The building collapsed instantly, trapping the unclean person underneath. Tony landed again. Sir, there is only 10% of the energy left, and it is still decreasing. I know, Jarvis. My heart will not stop beating, and this Unclean One will die. Blackwood's tears integrate progress, 80%. The remains of the building shook violently. With a bang, a large number of iron blocks flew into the sky. The Unclean Ones burst out. Integrate progress, 87%. Energy, 8.5%. Tony can no longer use hidden energy. This means that he will not be able to dodge the Unclean One's next attack. Tony fired his palm cannon. The dazzling beam of light shot into the unclean person's face. Suddenly a big hole appeared. The Unholy One was slowed only slightly. It is less than 100 meters away from Tony. Energy, 5%. Integrate progress, 92%. It seems that Tony can no longer complete the weapon integrate. And his heart is about to stop beating. Suddenly, behind Tony, a big hole was instantly knocked out of the building. Another Unclean One rushed towards him. Tony raised his palm cannon towards them. However, this seemed to be just his last desperate struggle. No, Tony, if you hold on for a few more seconds, the weapon will be integrated. Ah, why is there another one? It's really over now. Tony, no. The other side. The huge plates of the two Unclean Ones were already on Hulk's body. He felt as if every cell in his body was beginning to burst. In desperation, Hulk burst out with amazing power. His arms began to grow at an extremely fast speed. The muscles instantly expanded 3 times. He broke out into a horrifying roar. He grabbed hold of the two unclean faces like bread. He pulled hard. Pissed. The heads of the two unclean beings were ripped off instantly. Hulk's roar is filled with anger. He faced hundreds of Unclean Ones without any fear. Like a god of war. At the moment, the heads of the two Unclean Ones began to recover rapidly. A dozen other Unclean Ones began to pounce on Hulk at the same time. Hulk tore and smashed with all his might. He was constantly injured and his recovery ability gradually failed to keep up. And the number of Unclean Ones is simply too great. Hulk started to feel tired. His movements slowed. This led to more violent attacks from the Unclean Ones. Fully 50% of the flesh on Hulk's body was torn off. He didn't stop fighting, but his anger seemed to be running out. There were less than 50 agents and soldiers left. Nick constantly pulls the trigger. Bullets were fired desperately at the Unclean Ones. It was immediately ejected and the wound healed. Nick looked at Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff, it's my honor to work with you. Natasha Romanoff nodded. Me too, Director. They are already prepared to die. Hulk fought desperately. An unclean hand, pissed, inserted into his chest. Then, in an instant, his heart was crushed. Hulk spits out large amounts of green snow. The fighting spirit in his eyes has not diminished at all. The unholy ones grabbed Hulk's head. It seems that they want to cut him into pieces and then devour him. In this desperate moment, the sky suddenly darkened. Dark clouds were gathering, followed by lightning and thunder. Huge amounts of lightning struck from the sky. Countless unclean people were instantly shocked to death. They immediately began to recover from their injuries. But there was time to breathe. Hulk roared. The flesh and blood on his body grew at an extremely fast rate. Looking at Hulk, Loki's eyes showed fear. What kind of monster is this? Being punched by Hulk that day left a deep psychological shadow on Loki. Thor immediately landed next to Hulk. The two stood back to back, facing the unclean ones. Hey, big guy. Thor turned the hammer. I didn't expect that we would start to cooperate. Hulk snorted. Next to it, just before the agents were about to be wiped out, a huge amount of purple light beam exploded instantly. Temporarily paralyze a large number of unclean people. Loki frowned. What the hell am I doing, saving these monkeys? Hulk and Loki Thor, fighting and retreating. Gradually they retreated toward the mirror. Nick shouted amidst the noise, where is Tony Stark? Thor, can you bring him back? Energy, 3%. Integrate progress, 94%. The weapon is about to be integrated. But the two unclean ones in front and behind are already close at hand. Tony's heart also felt a throbbing. He is close to death. The weapon will never be fully integrated. In this extremely desperate situation, the armor on Tony's arms and legs detached instantly. Then, it suddenly settled on the arms of two unclean people. There was a sound. The armor pinned the two unclean ones to the ground. This is a built-in function designed by Tony. No energy is wasted. Although I only controlled the unclean person for a few seconds. But, enough. Integrate progress. 97%. 99%. 100%. Integration completed. Jarvis's voice was extremely cold, but it ignited Stark's only hope. Stark carried the extremely heavy armor. Shoulder cannon activated. Huge amounts of cannonballs were aimed at the two unclean people and shot out. Tisk. Boom. The smaller unclean one died instantly without making any cry. Something exploded, but Tony didn't see it. Another large unclean one. The body seemed to be torn apart and constantly twisted. At the same time, an extremely miserable scream was made. Tony was overjoyed. I heard it. Then he fired another cannonball. Accurate hit. Tears of black exploded within it. The unclean ones cry even more miserably. But he crawled towards Tony like crazy. Tony hurriedly dragged his heavy steps away from it. Fortunately, the unclean one was greatly slowed down due to his injuries. Otherwise, Tony would never have been able to escape. Tony continued to fire cannonballs at it as he retreated. The unclean ones are being harmed more and more severely. There are constant protrusions in the shape of human heads appearing on his body. There are hundreds of them, like maggots on bread, constantly squirming and making anyone's scalp numb. There seemed to be hundreds of innocent souls screaming in its body. Its screams became more and more like human voices. Tony kept backing away. He only had 3 shells left. But it is enough to see the unclean like this. The unclean one is already dying. However, it is still moving towards Tony constantly, with no intention of retreating. Tony had been forced into an alley. Only 1% of his energy was left. You can no longer use the palm cannon to blow away the wall behind you. There was no way he could retreat. The remaining shells must be used to kill the unholy ones. Tony fired 2 rounds. The body of the unclean one has become bloated like a big bag filled with water. Human heads constantly appear on the skin. Brown blood vessels have covered the whole body. The breath of the unclean also became extremely weak. The last one will definitely kill it. Tony aimed for the unholy one's head. By now. Click. The shell launcher activated, but nothing happened. Tony's face suddenly turned pale as he looked at the approaching unclean one. Launch again. Click. 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 Got stuck at such a critical moment. Tony covered his heart and sat down on the ground. Energy remaining, 0%. Tony's vision started to blur. He looked at the huge amounts of unclean one's head without facial features, smashing down on him. Tony closed his eyes, preparing to face death. At least, I chose an ending with a hero, right? The people under the light curtain looked at this scene with despair. Out of despair, hope emerged. Hope was ruthlessly extinguished again. This is fate. Tony smiled. It seems that I have already stepped into heaven with half a foot. But, it took a long time. He didn't even die. Tony opened his eyes in surprise. I saw that the unclean one was almost pressing on Tony's body. However, it took no further action. Tony looked at it doubtfully. Don't want to kill me. The unclean one held out his rotten palm. Trembling, he pointed at the cannonball on Tony's shoulder. Then, he pointed at himself. At the same time, a human-like sound was made. Tony suddenly realized, "You want to let me kill you." Tony understood immediately. These unclean ones are made up of countless human beings. They are filled with confusion and pain countless times. Their destruction, their killing. All the reasons may be to seek death. Tony's heart was filled with shock. He was constantly adjusting the shoulder cannon. Finally, with a bang, the missile penetrated the unholy one's head. Instantly, the unclean person's body began to expand violently. It turned into a translucent, brown water ball. Then, there was an explosion. Hundreds of humans were sprayed out along with brown liquid. Tony was also covered in brown liquid. But he didn't care. The ground is full of naked human beings. Men, women, old and young. Either dead or dying. Tony clutched his heart and looked at them. He is now full of sadness and sorrow. These humans are all victims of stupid religious dynasties. The Pope constantly deceives his people for the sake of his own power. For the sake of power, he will not hesitate to use lies to turn them into terrible monsters. They live in pain every moment. But, I can't die. If possible, Tony would really like to copy Black's tears in large quantities. To truly purify you of all impurity. But, he has no chance. Tony lay on the ground. The darkness in his eyes gradually expanded. His hand gradually dropped. Under the light curtain, many people cried. Tony, no, you can't die like this. Tony, you are a hero and we will always remember you. Tony, don't sleep, open your eyes. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew. Thor descended from the sky. He left and came to Tony's side. He squatted down and said, "It's amazing. You killed 2 unclean ones by yourself." He picked up the hammer and put it against Tony's chest. Lightning flashed. Tony's hammer lightly touched Tony's chest. Zilla. Electric current flows in. Tony's whole body was bounced up. He opened his eyes instantly. Take a sharp breath. The heart starts beating violently. Sir, you have 25% energy left. Jarvis said. Tony caressed his chest, the faintly glowing core. He looked at Thor in surprise. Can this still happen? Definitely. Thor smiled. Although I am curious about how you killed the unclean one, we must retreat now. Thor helped him up. Can you bear the high-altitude flight? I have no problem. If we want to retreat. Tony took out the purple disc. I have to have this. Not bad. Thor took the disc over in case Tony dropped it during the flight. He picked up Tony, swung the hammer, and flew into the sky. Neither Tony nor Thor noticed that the disc had turned red under Thor's touch. And only purple discs can open the door to the purple world. The other side. Loki and several of his duplications are desperately shooting magic rays. Everyone was constantly retreating to the rear, but the unclean ones had already surrounded them. Thor. Loki yelled, "If you don't come, I'll run away." Many of his duplications have been scattered by the unclean ones. I am coming. Thor sent down a violent bolt of lightning. The unclean ones at the rear came to a standstill for an instant. Then, Thor struck the ground with a hammer. Knocked them away all at once. Although the power of the unclean is great, its weight is very light. Hulk also rushed over, overturning all the unclean ones on the retreat path. Thor immediately threw Tony into Nick's arms. Then, hold the disc in your hand and get close to the mirror. But, nothing works. Thor was startled. Trying again had no effect. The unclean ones from behind have pressed forward again. Soldiers were devoured again. Everyone is at risk. In desperation, Natasha Romanoff suddenly thought of it. Said on the light screen. Different people will have different colors when holding the disc in their hands. It has something to do with their degree of repentance. It is very likely that the corresponding color can open the door to the corresponding world. Natasha Romanoff also doesn't know what color she will be, but had to give it a try. She snatched the disc from Thor's hand. The disc immediately turned purple. Natasha Romanoff was immediately delighted and quickly put the disc on the mirror. Suddenly, ripples appeared on the mirror surface. Everyone, come in quickly. Thor shouted immediately. Everyone got into the mirror. Back on Earth, when the last agent comes out, Natasha Romanoff immediately pulled the disc off. I saw the unclean ones on the other side hitting the mirror with a bang. Natasha Romanoff swallowed. She looked at the unclean ones, trying to open the mirror and come to the Earth. If you really let them come, the Earth may become like that city. At this time, a huge amount of helicopter landed on top of Stark Tower. Hundreds of people in yellow prison uniforms, as well as several Foundation agents, rushed over. The agent captain snatched the disc from Natasha Romanoff's hand. Sorry, ma'am, let me borrow it. He handed the disc to one of the prisoners. The disc still appears purple. These prisoners were full of enthusiasm for humanity, for the Earth, led by prisoners holding purple discs. They rushed into the mirror. Natasha Romanoff noticed that they all had a big D printed on them. D-class personnel entered the mirror world. Those unclean people were instantly attracted to them. He immediately gave up the mirror and chased them. After they are gone, the agent captain immediately removed the disc from the mirror. We will accept this thing. As a representative of the military, Rhodes didn't say anything. After all, dozens of heavily armed Foundation agents were standing there. And Rhodes has become the polished commander. The agent captain smashed the expensive mirror in one fell swoop. From then on, those unclean people could no longer come to the Earth. The crisis of Red Sea objects is over for now. As for whether any other Red Sea objects have fallen to the Earth, no one knows. Shortly after, members of the Foundation were leaving by plane one after another. It's so shocking, I don't even know what to say. This Red Sea object really hides too many secrets. I thought it was just an ordinary disc at first. At first I thought Tony was just a playboy who meant nothing, but now I've really turned into a fan. This is probably the only time that various superheroes have helped the Foundation, right? It was the Foundation that came to save them before. Indeed, the Red Sea objects, or unclean ones, were really terrifying and powerful. Even the Foundation has to sacrifice some people to temporarily isolate them. I'm really curious now, where does that him come from and what is it? I hope Black's tears can be mass-produced, so that we won't be afraid of the unclean ones invading the Earth one day. Kamar Taj. Ancient One took a long breath. She has not taken action because Dormammu is already very close to the Earth. If he does come, there will be no difference between the invasion of the Earth by the unclean ones. At least for now, Ancient One has not figured out a way to completely eliminate Dormammu. Perhaps she needed to talk to the Foundation's leaders about it herself. After all, Dormammu can be considered a world-destroying contained object. In addition, Ancient One is also curious about who that he is. His tears can create such a powerful monster. So will he, originally, be as powerful as Dormammu? College. Backyard. A man in red tights who looked like a bitch was lying on the lawn. On his body were two long knives. Ah, this unclean one is really curious. He said to himself, if I put my vagina in his vagina, what would he suck out? It's disappointing that this Foundation hasn't done anything like this. After a while, Deadpool suddenly felt someone standing in front of him. He opened his eyes immediately. I saw that it was a tall and thin boy wearing a mask. Deadpool was stunned. When the hell did you show up here? He jumped up suddenly. He glanced at Lu Yi up and down. Are you a student of this school? Or the illegitimate son of Professor X? Later, I saw the Foundation logo on his clothes. Oh, you are from the Foundation. Are you their boss or just a minion? No matter who you are, I am not interested. Deadpool lay on the lawn. Don't disturb my nap. I am an ordinary doctor of the Foundation, Wade. Lu Yi said in a processed voice, I have a job now. Not interested. The reward is not interested. Cure your face, which looks like a pickled cucumber after being by a goblin. Wade sat up instantly. Oh, you are not old, why are you so venomous? My face cannot be cured. I gave up this hope many years ago. I'm serious, Wade. The Foundation can do this. But, we need your help. Wade touched his chin, thinking. Somewhere on Earth. In the dark and shabby room, there is a clean and tidy mirror. A stooped man, holding a blue disc in his hand, he let out a breathtaking laugh. This stupid Foundation must not have thought that there is more than one Red Sea object. He. Get the sample of the unclean one and bring it to General Ross, and you will receive a generous reward. He was about to stick the disc to the mirror. He felt that someone suddenly appeared behind him. He was suddenly startled, took out his pistol and turned around. Who is it? Lu Yi looked at him calmly. Give me what you have in your hand, and you will have a chance to become AD class personnel. Otherwise, you will be executed immediately. What D level and C level? Believe it or not, I'll kill you with one shot. The man yelled, pointing the gun at Lu Yi's head. Lu Yi stretched out his hand. You have violated the Foundation's regulations prohibiting the possession of dangerous contained objects and threatened the lives of Foundation personnel. Now, I will execute you. What are you pretending to be? The man looked on in horror. Lu Yi's hand inserted into his abdomen. He didn't even see Lu Yi's movements clearly. Then, the man howled in pain. He quickly transformed into a magma-like substance. Then, it was absorbed into the body by Lu Yi. Lu Yi looked at his palm. Then, he walked to the mirror. Crush it to pieces with one palm. Then put the Red Sea things away. He sighed. There are countless Red Sea things existing on the Earth, or in this universe. It's impossible for him to contain it all by himself. He needs a strong elite team. Being able to handle extremely difficult events like this for him. College. Burning Man John's room. I don't know when a strange-shaped bear doll appeared. This doll looks very similar to the Stitched Bear, but it's definitely not it. Because Heart Stitch Bear is healing Tony Stark's heart. John didn't know where the little bear came from. But he quite liked it. So I kept it. When he discovered that this little bear could interact with him in a friendly way, he was surprised and excited. I must have met the same kind-hearted containment object as 999. That night, John was sleeping soundly. The bear doll quietly reached out to his ears. On the light screen, subtitles appeared. Inventory of abnormal contained objects, 2nd place. Abnormal contained object 1048 Teddy Bear Maker. Item level, safe, cross out. Project level, Keter. What does this mean? Why crossed out safe? I thought there was another kind-hearted abnormal containment object, but it turned out to be another Keter. Did this containment object be mistakenly thought to be safe at first, but he did something terrible? The Teddy Bear Maker doesn't sound that scary, unless he makes teddy bears like the Unholy One. Stop talking, I get goosebumps all over now when I mention the unclean ones. It's really possible, otherwise why would it be Keter? Tony's beach house. Tony lay comfortably on the chair and admired the beautiful sea view. Another teddy bear. I have a crush on teddy bears now. Tony's heart was completely healed by the Heart Stitch Bear. So when the credits came on, he wasn't scared. Subtitles updated. Description. Anomaly Containment Object 1048 is a teddy bear approximately 33 centimeters tall. Close black lens bracket. The material is no different from other ordinary teddy bears. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Items can move freely and communicate through gestures. Close black lens bracket. Items often show people how cute they are. So most people think she is kind. Close black lens bracket. This description doesn't look like a Keter level 1. Yeah, how could something so cute be dangerous? Could it be that Keter doesn't mean danger? 7 months after initially appearing safe. Close black lens bracket. Abnormal behavior of abnormal containment object 1048 was discovered. Close black lens bracket. Through these actions, Dr. Data Expunged believes. This project has the ability to make a rough replica of yourself. Close black lens bracket. And, its cuteness is the false atmosphere it deliberately creates. Close black lens bracket. Currently, there are 3 known creations of 1048. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket 1048A, 1048B, 1048C close black lens bracket. These creations are in sharp contrast to anomaly containment object 1048. Close black lens bracket. They all show extreme violence towards humans. Close black lens bracket. That's true. It will create very dangerous replicas. Oh my god, is that why it's Keter? This is so weird. A cute little bear has created a killing machine. Shield. Nick was lost in thought. Exhibiting extreme violence against humans. How powerful this 1048 is depends on how powerful his replica is. Even so, as long as it is locked in a cell, it is impossible for him to create a replica. Why is it Keter level? Suddenly, Nick thought of something. His eyes widened. Unless those replicas have appeared. Thinking of this, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. At the moment, Hill walked over with long legs. Director, our informant broke the news. An extremely weird-looking teddy bear appeared in the city center of New York. Nick was shocked. Hill continued, it appears to be made of a human ear. On the light screen, the picture began to play. The city center of New York. A little bear whose body is made up of dense ears is constantly walking. It looked like it was being manipulated by something. Most people ran away when they saw such a disgusting density of things. Some people couldn't help but be curious and stared at it. After a while, Wade arrived here with a group of sea-level agents. Give way, give way. Wade and others squeezed into the crowd. They saw the little bear. Ah, really? Wade pulled out the knife. I thought it was something dangerous. But it turned out to be a little bear with all ears. Wade gradually approached it. It looks like a human ear. Did it steal someone's ear and make it into a doll? That person is really unlucky. However, fortunately the stolen part was not a vagina, otherwise, this light curtain would have been banned. Deadpool and C-class agents are constantly approaching 1048 in an attempt to contain it. Hey, little guy. Wade approached the little bear with coquettish steps. Follow Uncle Wade obediently. Otherwise, I will send you to Mike Tyson's house and let him eat you. Suddenly, when Wade is 10 meters away from the bear, it suddenly emitted a high decibel scream. Suddenly, Wade and all the agents covered their ears. Severe pain filled their eyes and ears. Then, everyone screamed in pain. A large number of ears began to grow from their bodies. Thousands of ears grew on every inch of their skin. Extremely dense. The people watching were immediately frightened to the extreme. That disgusting look, that scream of agony. Let everyone present feel the same. They fled screaming. It's so scary. These are human ears, there are thousands of them on each person. Are these ears directly rooted in their skin? Is this teddy bear so scary? I also have a teddy bear at home. I feel like it's staring at me now. Wow, this is even more disgusting than the unclean one. Those sea-level agents with ears all over their bodies quickly stopped screaming. They covered their throats with their hands full of ears and fell to the ground in pain. They can't make a sound. This is because there is more to the ears than just the appearance. Every viscera of them, the large intestine, stomach, throat, and trachea are all covered with ears. Their airways have been completely blocked by their ears. Because the ears are rooted inside their bodies. So there is nothing they can do. I can only wait for death to come in painful suffocation. Deadpool is also covered in ears both inside and outside his body. His red tights were stretched out. Moreover, he couldn't breathe now. I couldn't help but kneel down on one knee. Although he has a more perverted self-healing ability than Wolverine, he cannot be suffocated to death. But this is not the way to go. This cute little bear can't be left alone. Let every New Yorker become an ear man. Hey, who is this person? Wearing red tights. Is he a superhero? Look, this man in red has the logo of the Foundation on his body. He must be from the Foundation. Even the people from the Foundation can't do anything about it. I can't think of any possibility of his survival. No, don't you all know him? Deadpool, the mutant of the X-Men team. He has super self-healing ability. Sorry, I really don't know him. I only know Wolverine. Self-healing ability is useful. It seems like they can't breathe. Self-healing ability can't help him take in oxygen. Shield. Nick saw Deadpool. He suddenly frowned. Wade. Isn't he from Professor X? Why did he join the Foundation? A person with such a weird personality joined the Foundation just after he said he would join the Foundation. How on earth did he do this? The boss of this foundation is really scarier than the containment objects. Nick thought to himself. He glanced at Lu Yi subconsciously. I really don't know how this doctor escaped from that devil. Natasha Romanoff stared at the light curtain. She couldn't help but shrink back. This scene is also extremely scary for the experienced agent. Why can't they breathe? Natasha Romanoff's voice was weak, as if her breathing was also affected. Because their bodies are also covered with ears. Their respiratory tracts are blocked. Lu Yi said calmly. It seems that this is just a trivial matter. A chill suddenly spread from Natasha Romanoff's head to her feet. She couldn't help but wonder. Wade, will he survive? Wade on the light screen seemed unconcerned about his situation. He raised the knife and pointed it at himself. He looked at the white agent struggling in pain on the ground. In an extremely weak voice he uttered one hell of a joke. It's your turn to not be able to breathe, huh? Then, people under the light curtain were shocked. Pissed, Wade plunged the knife into his throat. Then, he pushed the knife down desperately. Creak. Poof. Click. From the top of your throat to the bottom of your belly. Wade gave himself a thorough dissection. Then, he opened his throat, chest and abdomen. Just like a hospital operation, the doctor uses a shelf to open the patient's incision. Wade's opened body was full of ears. They are constantly squirming with blood. Looks like a monster from the world of Cthulhu. Many people under the light curtain collapsed on the spot. Many people fainted. Even Ancient One quietly covered his mouth. This scene is much scarier than most dark creatures. Wade didn't stop. He dropped the knife and held out his hand. Reached into his throat. He tugged at the upper ear. Tear them off with a sneer. Tisk, tisk, poof. Wade tore out the ears from his trachea, stomach and intestines one by one. Thrown to the ground, it formed a hill. Then, he closed the wound manually. All of Wade's wounds began to heal instantly. Soon, he was as good as new. He took a deep breath of fresh air. Ah, it feels so comfortable. This is Deadpool's insanely powerful self-healing ability. In the story of the zombie universe, Wade's body is injected with the antidote to the zombie virus. He let zombies from all over the universe eat him. All of them were cured in this way. And Wade can still self-heal as before. This self-healing ability is too perverted, isn't it? Such a strong superhero can only work for the Foundation. I'm not surprised how powerful this organization, the Foundation is. They contain so many dangerous things, how come they don't have the strength? This Deadpool is a little bit perverted. Even if I have self-healing ability, I still can't think of this trick. It hurts so much just to look at it. Why does he look like he's enjoying it? General Ross looked at Deadpool's perverted self-healing ability. It's jealousy and hate. Why, that Foundation, any employee is so strong. And I can't even study the body tissue of the contained object. Foundation. I originally got several Red Sea items, but they were all taken back by people from the Foundation. And you executed my men. Ross grew angrier as he thought about it. The next containment object, no matter what it is or how powerful it is, I want to get his body tissue. Wade hummed a dirty tune and looked at the sea-level agents struggling on the ground. He sighed. He knew that these people were hopeless. There was no way they would survive if they were disemboweled. All Wade can do is stop others from being tortured by the ear bear. He raised his knife and quickly rushed to the little bear. Before it screams again, cut it in two. Then, Wade slashed wildly. Shred it into shreds. Then he took out a gasoline bottle. Pour the oil on the pile of ear silk. This reminds me of a Dragon Country delicacy I once had. Salad pig ears. The people from the Dragon Kingdom under the light screen felt instantly nauseated. Wade lit the fire. Suddenly, 1048A turned into a ball of ashes. Wade stood up. The next step is to contain the little bear. At the moment, Wade's intercom rang. Wade, 1048-2 has appeared, go and contain it immediately. Ah, I know. Wade looked at the light screen. I saw a teddy bear that was very similar to 1048 walking around on the street. A baby arm stretched out from the seam on his belly. Queens, in a remote alley. 1048 is moving erratically. Seems to be looking for something. The baby arms that sprouted from its belly were always trying to grab the air. Oh my God, is that a child's arm? Coming out of its belly. Is this baby still alive? The last bear made a person's body covered with ears, so this one, could it make a person's body covered with arms? Maybe, it will make people have baby faces all over their bodies. The kind that can also cry. Please stop talking. Kamar Taj. The Ancient One can feel it clearly. Inside that bear's belly was a living creature. It is unknown what kind of living creature they are and whether they are different from humans. According to the information on the light screen, there should be 3 bears in total. Ancient One thought about it. What kind of pattern will these 3 bears follow? Will one be stronger than the other? The other side of Queens. Spider-Man is fighting passionately with Venom. Between the tall buildings, there are black and white spider webs. Peter Parker, today is the day you die. Venom roared. The stone-like fist hit Peter and struck him down. Peter flashed nimbly. You talk too much. He punched Venom in the face. Black liquid splashes. Ex-college. Charles looked at the unconscious girl on the hospital bed and fell into deep thought. Beside him stood Pyro John, who was missing an ear. That girl was originally 8 months pregnant. For some reason, the fetus in her belly disappeared out of thin air. She herself fell into a coma. He was discovered this morning and sent to the infirmary. Fortunately, her body is fine. The professor glanced at John. There were no scars where his ears disappeared. It was as if John's ears never existed. The teddy bear removed John's ears and created 1048A. Charles said, this child was created as 1048-2. So, what is 1048-3? Has anyone else been attacked by a teddy bear in our college? Beast Hank said with a serious face, the metal component I have been developing suddenly disappeared. Could it be that teddy bear? Charles was startled. What kind of components? In the light curtain, Wade arrives near 1048B. He put the knife on his shoulder. Hey, Mr. Bear, Uncle Wade is here again. Hand over that, whatever it is in your body, and then you can die. Quote. Wade approached step by step. He doesn't care about any abnormal effects of 1048B. Anyway, his self-healing ability is invincible. Suddenly, 1048B noticed Wade. It tilted its head and stared into Wade's eyes. The baby's hand inside her also stopped grabbing. That evil aura made Wade's breath pause. This surprised Wade. He is not even afraid of Thanos. Although he hasn't met Thanos yet. 1048B slowly approaches Wade. Wade also took a stance. Just when the two were about to attack each other. Boom! The wall of the building next to it collapsed instantly. Peter flew backwards and fell heavily to the ground. It just slipped to Wade's feet. Wade. He rubbed his eyes to make sure he saw correctly. Spider-Man. Wade picked up Peter and gave him a big hug. Spider-Man, do you know that I think about you every day when I sleep, when I eat pizza, and even when I go to the toilet? Today, I've met you. My idol. This is weird, please let me go first. Peter pushed him away. Oh, sorry. At the moment, Venom rushed out of the building and went straight to Peter. Die. Its huge body is like a heavy truck. Peter got into a fighting stance. What a difficult guy. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Venom suddenly stopped when it rushed to the vicinity of 1048B. He seemed to feel something extraordinary. He looked at the harmless little bear. He grabbed it and held it up to his eyes. Something so evil, evil so pure, good. The Venom opened its mouth to swallow the cub up. The little bear tilted his head and looked into Venom's eyes. Suddenly, the baby's hand on the bear's belly. Grasping Venom's fingers tightly. Just hear a click. The entire finger was pulled off by that hand. Venom knelt on the ground, looked at the broken finger, and howled in pain. Originally, Venom has no pain, except for fire and noise. But, for some reason, it was the Venom host's finger that the baby broke off. This kind of pain goes straight to the soul. The bear jumped directly onto Venom's belly. Then, under everyone's shocked eyes, a baby in a bear's body got directly into Venom's belly. Venom stood up involuntarily. Next, its belly. It swelled as if it were 8 months pregnant. Then, Venom howled. My belly is getting more and more bulging. Soon, pissed. A large amount of black slime spurted out. A huge amount of baby-shaped venom was born. Its body is constantly expanding. Soon, it was higher than the building next to it. And the original Venom host, Eddie, was lying on the ground. A big hole was opened in the stomach. The internal organs were spilled all over the floor. One of his fingers was also broken. Oh, shit. Deadpool covered the back of his head and looked at the huge venomous baby approaching them. That little bear's fertility ability will definitely set a world record. Even that black monster. Peter's face under the mask was very anxious. Venom is already extremely difficult to deal with. Now, become stronger. But he must stop it. Peter said nothing and started swinging the cobweb. Use your flexible body skills to avoid the giant baby's grasp and fly around it. Meanwhile, constantly wrapping it with cobweb. The giant baby seemed to giggle. Grabbed those cobwebs and ripped them off. Then, he directly grabbed Peter's cobweb and threw Peter out like a yo-yo. Peter did some somersaults in the air and landed firmly. This is going to be difficult. He watched anxiously as the giant baby continued to move forward. One car after another was crushed by him. Not a single onlooker ran away. All turned into meatloaf. At this time, in the air, a magnetic yet slightly frivolous voice sounded. Are you in trouble, little Spider-Man? I saw an Iron Man covered in red with a golden mask flying over. That is Mark III, the most classic Iron Man armor, full of mechanical feel. The red and yellow color scheme makes it more handsome. Is this Tony Stark's voice? Ah, it must be him. I didn't expect him to upgrade his armor so quickly. It looks much lighter than the silver one. Even Tony is working for the Foundation. He is the richest man in the world. First the X-Men, then Tony. Who will be the next boss to work for the Foundation? As the most powerful organization in the world, Tony must give face. Is there anything strange about it? In fact, Tony was just passing through. When the road is rough, draw your sword to help. At the moment, Deadpool patted Peter on the shoulder. Hey, look, here comes a person who likes red as much as us. He looks very strong, and it's none of our business. At the moment, Tony's palm sparkled with light. With a bang, energy shot out. It hit the giant baby on the head. Suddenly, the giant baby covered his head and started howling. The high temperature of the palm cannon seemed to make it extremely painful. Then its abyss-like eyes stared intently at Tony. A huge amount of black mucus spurted out from the mouth. Tony's feet immediately erupted into flames and he quickly dodged away. But Wade and Peter below were unlucky. The venom hit their faces directly. The venom began to wrap around their bodies, to turn them into hosts. The two struggled desperately, but the venom is getting tighter and tighter. It's just too much. The other side, Loki stared at the black venom. I didn't expect that the things on the symbiote planet would actually come to the world of Midgard. This infamous planet is a place even more avoidable than Jotunheim. Odin said that the symbiote is actually the weapon of an ancient god. Now it's interesting. Can that stupid Iron Man defeat the weapons of the gods of the universe? Kamar Taj. When she saw the venom, her heart suddenly tightened. The Ancient One definitely knows who the god of symbiotes is. If the symbiotes come to Earth, then it's possible that the god of the symbiotes will come too. This is the person who can really destroy the planet. Unexpectedly, except for Dormammu, there was another enemy to worry about. In the light curtain, Wade and Peter are about to be swallowed by the venom. Tony wanted to help them, but the giant baby kept spraying mucus at him. Tony had to dodge and keep fighting back. Wade breathed heavily. Spider-Man, I haven't asked you for a butt print yet. At this time, Foundation vehicles arrived promptly. On top of those cars, huge amounts of speakers were installed. Buzz. They made a very harsh roar. The people under the light curtain covered their ears and were in agony. The venom on Peter and Wade immediately screamed and left them in pain. Foundation agents immediately arrived with flamethrowers. Burned the madly twisting venom completely. On the other side, the giant baby covered his ears and howled. The venom in it is constantly twisting and detaching. The Foundation agents' car surrounded the giant baby. They kept attacking the giant baby with noise. It wants to fight back, but it simply can't. Its size has become much smaller visibly to the naked eye. The giant baby realized it had to destroy the cars. He endured huge amounts of pain and desperately tried to lift his feet. Tony immediately raised his arms. The barrel extends. Cannonballs fired. Boom. Huge amounts of explosions devoured the giant baby's head. A large amount of venom was burned to ashes. In this way, the giant baby keeps getting smaller. until it became human file size. The Foundation agent stopped the attack. Instead, he got out of the car, picked up a small loudspeaker, and approached it. Start attacking it with less aggressive noises, in order to force out the remaining venom, without hurting the baby inside. Soon, all the venom is removed from the baby. A new, white baby appeared, twirling its fingers. An agent picked it up. So far, the baby is still alive. As for what will happen next, it depends on her fortune. The remaining agents began to clean up the remaining venom. Soon, only a pile of coke was left on the scene. As for 1048_B, it has already turned into a bearskin. The Foundation's agent burned it to ashes. Since then, 1048B has been successfully executed. Now, only 1048_C is left, if it really exists. However, what no one noticed was, a small group of remaining venom escaped quietly. Escaped into the sewer. Finally solved, Foundation YYDS. I remember, there were 3 little bears in total, right? This fetal bear is obviously much stronger than the ear bear. So will the last one. Just don't create something as scary as the unclean one. As long as you can kill him, it's not so bad. After a period of time, on the light screen, a prison appeared. This prison is very special. It is specially used to imprison super ability criminals. At the moment, underground of the prison, inside a special cell made of plastic. Magneto Eric looked at the light screen above his head and was stunned. Isn't this where I am? Could it be that the third bear will appear here? Thanks for watching. Subscribe and support my channel.